Paul and Andy, it's good to have you back at the ranch. I understand you've got another interesting location to visit. So tell us what you got planned.
Not only is it an interesting story, frankly, it's kind of a disturbing one.
Right.
There's a ranch in Taos where a woman has a series of tragedies and claims for maybe the origin or reasons behind these tragedies that, I don't know how else to put it, it's very creepy and disturbing material.
Where exactly is Taos?
Taos is in northern New Mexico. It's really at the tail end of the San Luis Valley, which is sort of an anomaly corridor.
We have these strong correlations between Taos and Skinwalker Ranch.
The woman who is our sort of principal point of contact has reported strange sightings and energy anomalies that affected them physically.
Yeah, she seems to think that there's some kind of malevolent presence, even a demon, that might be at this ranch house that she and her husband owned, where the husband actually passed away.
So we've been put in touch with Chris O'Brien, which is a name that you might be familiar with here. He's an investigator who goes back to the Sherman days here at Skinwalker.
In the early 90s, before Robert Bigelow owned Skinwalker Ranch, it was owned by the Sherman family.
They experienced everything from UFO sightings to cattle mutilations. They were terrorized.
The strange phenomena led the Shermans to call in Chris O'Brien, one of the premier cattle mutilation experts in the country. He became one of the first people to investigate what's now known as Skinwalker Ranch. He recently brought Taos Ranch, a hotspot he's been investigating, to Andy and Paul's attention.
The only thing I know about Taos is the Taos Hum.
So I have done some digging, as I assume you have also, Travis, into this reported Taos Hum. In fact, there are several locations around the world where there's this unaccounted for artificial sound coming from some unknown source.
How does it fit into the whole picture? And I think in this case, the ranch owner, the woman, is, to our understanding, a fairly prominent member of the community.
Oh, good.
Really doesn't want her identity known, has not spoken about this publicly. So we're going to be really the first to get a full account of what's going on out there.
Our focus is on the property itself, and I would even go further to say that our focus is going to be on the ranch house,
Okay.
the center points of her experience.
All right, good luck, fellas.
All right, yeah.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys in a bit.
Paul sits down with the ranch owner to hear her account of the phenomena she experienced.
Melinda, thank you so much for being here. I think just tell us the story of you and your husband and your home and what the two of you experienced there.
I moved in with him in 2005. He owned a ranch. He had cattle, but I think after about the third night that I lived there, we got abducted the first time. And
Within just a few days
Yeah.
of you moving to the ranch,
yeah,
you experienced an abduction.
yeah.
What do you mean by abduction?
So at the beginning of every abduction, outside the windows, the area gets flooded with bright white light. And we hear a very almost imperceptible hum. You can feel the magnetism. You could feel that resistance. When we wake up the next morning, we feel hungover, foggy in the head, very tired, sore in all sorts of different parts of our body.
What do you think is happening?
I believe we were taken onto a ship and that we were being medically examined and studied. Afterwards, he said, stuff like this happens on the ranch. My husband and I always said, there's gotta be a portal here, there's gotta be a vortex here, something.
Did you feel you were in danger?
Oh yeah, every moment.
When did you leave the ranch?
First, my dog died, and then a few months later, our horse died. 2 months later, my husband died. A month later, my cat died. And a month after that, my other dog died. And the moment I finished burying that dog, I called my son and said, come get me. I ran for my life.
You ran to escape.
Yeah,
So you lost, it sounds,
everybody. I couldn't live there. It was uninhabitable.
why do you think that all happened? Do you blame that on
I blame
the
it on a
entities?
demon. I call it a demon.
This is all connected to these negative energies
Yeah.
on the ranch.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people might hear this and think, wow, this is really out there. I don't believe this. What would you say to people who are skeptical?
I absolutely don't care. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. People are going to think what they're going to think.
Why are you coming forward now? I know we're protecting your identity. Why are you choosing to speak publicly about this now?
I know what's going on in layman's terms. I would love to know what's going on in scientific terms about what's been happening on my ranch.
Now that Chris has given Andy a first-hand look inside the house, Paul joins them on the ranch property to conduct their first experiment, right outside the window where the owner claims most of her abductions occurred, that may be related to a portal. They are joined by local Mutual UFO Network investigator, Steve Priola.
Now, Steve, Chris and I have been out here and done some initial investigation. Starting here, this is the house where the current ranch owners believe there's some kind of negative spirit present, going as far as to call it a demon.
I was going to say, this is the house that really is the focus of the negative energy here.
And the potential that there's some sort of portal activity. And what we want to do tonight is we want to kind of see if we can't stimulate some sort of change in the environment using some techniques that Paul and I have experimented with in the past, as well as some tools that have worked on Skinwalker Ranch.
We've heard about the Taos Hum, but we really don't know all the details. Maybe you can fill us in on it.
Well, it's pretty widespread in this area, and it's been going on for probably hundreds of years. We're getting a lot of reports of it happening now, including somebody today who I interviewed.
Today?
Today. And I've heard that the frequency's around 55 hertz, and I played him the specific tone. And as soon as he heard it, that's it.
Well, we'll be blasting 55 hertz tonight for sure.
In addition to playing a 55 hertz tone, the team will be monitoring the area with FLIR thermal cameras to look for temperature changes in the environment, and a spectrum analyzer to capture any unusual radio frequency activity, particularly in the 1.6 gigahertz range that signifies Earth to space or space to Earth communication.
And spectrum analyzer is live. So with that, I think the place that we normally start is we take a look at baselines. So yeah, what we're seeing right now, baseline, is just standard low-level radio noise all across the spectrum. So then let's start the Taos tone. All right, 55 hertz is queued up for the tone generator.
Okay.
All right. You see this, Paul? Look, look.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Look, look at this. Look at how it's changing.
Wow.
Look at
Whoa.
this. And you can see the energy changes. So this didn't start until after we turned on the tone generator. And then this is happening on a frequency that is reserved for Earth to space and space to Earth communication. The whole 1.6 gigahertz frequency zone. Look at that.
Now the tone generator's off, and it's still going.
Mm-hmm. But what's all the other noise?
Where is it all coming from? And it hasn't turned off. It hasn't stopped. Look at this. Whoa. There's absolutely some kind of measurable energy here that is strange.
Yeah.
And luckily, we don't have enough information to know whether we should be excited or scared.
I know.
Right.
Paul and Andy, it's good to have you back.
Guys, I'm really interested to hear more details about Taos. So let's see what you got.
We got lots of really interesting data and some, frankly, unforgettable experiences. So one of the first things we wanted to do was start projecting a tone into the atmosphere to see if we could measure some sort of change when we replicated what we thought might be the Taos hum. We decided to focus in on 55 hertz because that was a specific frequency zone that Steve Priola, the MUFON investigator, had measured in his own investigations.
Okay.
This experiment we set up right in front of the ranch house where they claimed to be abducted right from their room. So after launching the 55 hertz tone, we started seeing a change from baseline.
That's not us.
And you can see the energy changes. So this didn't start until after we turned on the tone generator.
You see this at 1.633 gigahertz.
Yes, sir.
And how long did it last after?
Once it started, it just didn't stop, even after we turned off the tone.
Really?
How did this end? Did the signal stop or did you just leave?
We left.
We just left.
So as far as you know, it never stopped.
Correct.
That's right.
It felt so good to leave that house, go back to the hotel, pack our bags, and then get the hell out of Taos.
Yeah. We gave ourselves a good scare, and I think, you know,
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished, I guess.
You brought us some great data.
Yes, and let's keep casting that broad net.
Great work. Can't wait to see what you do next.